Welcome to another episode of 50 Shades and Grey. Thank you for joining us. So today we are going to talk why being single in midlife can feel so heavy sometimes. And we're going to look at why that's actually normal. So after a breakup or after a divorce, of coming out of a relationship, there are a lot of things that take time to adjust to. There's the feeling of being alone. There's new responsibilities. There is sometimes the discovery of independence that can be difficult to navigate. And we're going to talk today about how those feel and what we can do to combat these things and how we can go on with our life sometimes, because that's what we're here to do, is take the journey in the best way that we can and make it something that's enjoyable and we're not constantly looking back and regretting. The difference between being alone and feeling lonely in midlife is very different. Being alone is a feeling of having nothing around you at all, having no friends, no one that loves you, no one that cares for you. And I think especially in midlife, we always look at the worst possible thing sometimes and think, I don't want to be one of those people that if I die, no one notices me gone. And I'm later on discovered by a random coincidence of someone knocking at the door and coming in and finding us laying on the floor somewhere. And we could have been there for the past 2 or 3 weeks and no one notices. And I think sometimes as we grow older, it's very difficult to maintain relationships. It's very difficult to maintain relationships with friends sometimes because we have changes of opinions. Sometimes we have known each people for a long, long time, and that just comes to an end. And other times, and I think especially after COVID, people lost a lot of touch with each other because there was that period of where you had these bubbles that you could only see people within those bubbles. So you grew closer to people in those bubbles, but further apart from people outside of those. And then I think that isolated many people after COVID. And I know a few of the friendships that I had before COVID definitely suffered for 2 years of not seeing each other. And it's only recently that I've probably started to make more of a conscious effort to actually get a date in the diary and try and stick to something. And I think that's very important about filling your life with things that, especially when you're single, that you can look forward to, because it's about the next thing, or maybe a hobby. So for me, it was always some sort of sport. It gave me a purpose to every weekend. I would be in a social circle of other guys that were playing the same sport, and that gave me conversation. It gave me something to look forward to, and it gave me purpose to a day. Because otherwise you can quite easily fall into that trap of just literally thinking about what you're going to have for breakfast, and then what you're going to have for lunch, and then what you're going to have for dinner. And your life becomes this all about, looking forward to something, but you've got nothing else. So it just becomes food. So it's very important to give yourself things in your life that you actually get joy from. Now, whether that is family, friends, socializing with people, joining clubs. And lots of the time, it's also about getting out of that comfort zone. It's getting out to meet new people. And that can be really scary. That can be really scary sometimes, of going somewhere new. Even when we're older, it's hard enough when we're young. And when we're older, we feel like we should have more confidence in ourselves and we should be able to sort of do all these new things, and because we've done it before. But in fact, I don't think it makes it easier. Sometimes it actually makes it harder because of our age and that we're older. And change as you get older, I think sometimes is great. But I think it can be very hard to navigate the way through change as well, because it is sometimes a shock to the system. And it is also that adrenaline rush of like, this is all new, but that's great. And the feelings of being nervous and excited are very, very similar. And I think a lot of the time we mistake being nervous for actually being excited, because it's something that is new and we don't know what to expect, and we think, oh, I'm really nervous about this. I think if you step back and look at it, you can maybe change it around and look at it from a different angle and reframe it and think, you know what, I think I'm actually excited. I'm not nervous. I'm just excited about what may happen, what may come of this, what may this lead to. Also, if you're feeling lonely in midlife, it doesn't mean that the answer is another relationship. Sometimes we go into relationships, I think, looking for an answer to things that are within ourselves. Sometimes we think it's other people that give us that satisfaction, that self-fulfillment. My view is that's got to come from you. You know, it's going to be very difficult, and that's a lot of pressure to put on someone else if you're expecting them to make you happy. You've got to be happy with yourself first of all, and then everything after that becomes a lot easier because you're just looking for things to enhance your life rather than things to make your life. It's up to you to make your life. It's up to you to find the things that you want in your life that are going to make you happy. And that doesn't mean finding someone to give you them. Finding someone to share them is completely different. If you're looking for someone to give you all of these things and you're just sitting there waiting, like, you know, they're just handing you everything on a plate and making your life for you, one of two things may happen. They're going to get really bored of doing it, and they're going to be thinking, right, what are you bringing to the table for me? I'm always the one starting conversation. I'm always the one that's making the jokes. And I remember when I was dating, and I'd catch myself doing this thing where when we were on a car journey, I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to say anything for a couple of minutes and then see what happens. And the amount of time I did that and nothing happened. It was just silent until I spoke again. So if it's always the same person driving the conversation or making the jokes or bringing up new subjects or making arrangements, it can get boring for that person. And it also can get boring for the other person as well, because they might feel they're not actually contributing anything and they want to. And obviously that depends upon the dynamics of the situation and the dynamics of the relationship. And I think that for some couples, that probably works brilliantly because you've got one that wants to make all the decisions and wear the trousers, and you've got the other one that doesn't want to make any decisions and wants to be told what they're doing, where they're going, because they might be doing other things elsewhere and think, I haven't got the energy to do both. So I'm going to work all day. You know, when I come home, you just tell me what we're doing, tell me where we're going. I'm really easy. It's brilliant and it works for everyone. And then that's great. But it's not always that way for everyone. I think for me, the relationships I've had in my life, they work best when the balance is even. I think we've all been in relationships where you can see the balance favours one person heavily. You know, whichever person that may be, it could be the male, the female, or the male in, you know, in a gay relationship, whichever it may be. It's sometimes you can see like that guy's in charge or she's the one that's in charge, and, you know, she's got the balance in her favour. And again, that may work, but it depends upon your makeup as a person, I think. I think there always needs to be that fear of loss for me. It's always worked best for me that if I'm in a relationship where I know that I've got to work hard to keep them, but I don't feel like I've got all the power, because of the relationships that I've been in, when I have felt that, I've made bad decisions, I think, during those relationships. That hasn't always worked out well. So I think when you're talking about being alone or feeling alone in midlife, it's very, very different. Being alone can be fantastic. You know, some relationships, and my relationship now is, it works on that you have both. You have that time when you're alone and you have that time when you're together, but you don't lose your independence. And that's the thing from when you've been single for a while and you get good at being single, in terms of you get to that point of you're happy alone. You don't want to lose that again, because if you give it up, it's like stepping off a sort of a life raft and swimming for a shore that you don't know who's there or not. You know, you find yourself after a while thinking, I'm buggered here and I'm lost and I don't know where I am, and now I can't get back to my lifeboat. I should have just stayed there. Where I think if you can retain that independence, you don't have to give everything up. And I know people have said, like, well, that means that you don't live together. Why doesn't it? You can still live together without living in the same place. If you've both got a place, you can still live together, but you've also got that chance to go, right, I'm doing this tonight, and well, okay, I'm doing this tonight, and you have time alone, and you don't lose that. So I think being alone in midlife can be a great thing, but you've got to be comfortable with it. And that brings us on to the next question of why silence hits harder after a long relationship. Now, for me, when I came out of a long relationship, and this I think lands completely differently depending upon which side you was that's coming out of the long relationship. You might be on the side that was someone who had been desperate to get out for the last 2, 10, how many years it may be. Now, for that person, they would have felt alone for a long, long time. And I've always felt that being alone in a relationship is so, so much worse than being alone on your own, because you're not responsible for anyone else when you're single and alone. It's just you to take care of. Obviously, kids as well, get that, but I'm just talking about the single person now. So if you're on that side, I think it's different. If you're on the side which I have been, when it wasn't your choice, that silence, oh man, that can hit you so hard. And because you're left in your head, and no matter how much noise you try to fill it with, you just cannot get out of it sometimes. And you do all those classic things of, especially if you're on the side that the person's gone at you, you're desperately trying to work out on your side where everything went wrong. You're looking back over WhatsApp messages and saying, well, they told me they loved me there, and then I replied this, so everything was fine there. And you're desperately looking for an answer of thinking, where did this go wrong? And I don't think there's a point where anything actually went wrong. Sometimes it was just a shift for the other person. And when you've done both, you can look at it in a much more balanced way, because you understand that the person that's made that decision against you probably struggled for a long time getting to the stage where they were exhausted and just thought, I need to get out of this now. I'm done. I've tried everything. I don't know what to say anymore, but I cannot be here. I'm just not happy. Whereas the person receiving that doesn't know the history of what's gone on in the person's head, because they may not have had these conversations with you. They may have had these conversations with you. You just might not have heard them. You just might have ignored the signs that they were putting forward, that they wanted to talk, they wanted to resolve things. But you might have thought that you was in the position of power and things wouldn't change. And then it could be a real shock when it does. And I think the reason that silence can be so loud is because you're left in your own head with your thoughts of like all these things and the pictures of memories and the smell of memories and all the future that you was looking for. It's just gone. And what you was once so excited about now has become something that you just think, what's going to happen next? What am I going to do? And for me, it was, am I ever going to feel that way again? Will I ever meet anyone else that I'm going to feel that way about? And the answer to that question is no, you're not. You're just not. But what you will feel is something completely different. And you might find that another 2 or 3 times, and it will be different each time. And eventually you'll find something either with someone or on your own or whatever it may be that is right for you. Because when you look at it at the cold light of the day, if someone has left you and it was their decision, you might be hurting, but that was the right decision. You don't want to be with someone that doesn't want to be with you. Who wants that? Who wants to lay in bed every night thinking, I know this person doesn't want to be with me, God, but I love them? Who wants that? No one wants that. You're just living a lie, and they're living a lie. And eventually that is going to eat them up or eat you up, because you're not getting what you should be getting off of someone. You should be getting the feeling of being loved and loved, not just giving love all the time and getting nothing back. So that silence is your chance to find peace again and find you again. especially if you've relied so heavily on the other person. And that's very difficult to do sometimes, but you'll get there. It takes time and it's a shock, first of all. And you've probably had it before. You've just forgot about it. There were probably times in your life where you had that peace in your own head, but it was so long ago that you forgot what it felt like, because that had been taken away and filled with a lot of other great things or bad things, whatever it may be. But now it's back again. So it's a chance for you to rediscover where you are now, because you'll be a different person to then. And that brings us to the next question, which is the emotional hangover of responsibility and the history and experience completely changes, because the last time that you may have been single, you wouldn't have had kids, you may not have had a house, you may not have had a lot of things that's in your life now that you've coped with someone else. And if they've been taken that responsibility for everything, then that's going to be a big shock to you. And I think this is especially prevalent for women that have made the decision with their partners that they were going to stay at home and bring up the kids, and their partners took care of all the financial aspects of it. To suddenly be single can just feel very disabling, because it's just really simple things that you might feel totally stupid about, thinking, I don't know how to pay a gas bill. Now, please don't think that I'm putting anyone down on this, but I've had conversations with people where this has been their biggest fears, where they've let someone else take care of everything for them, and they've lost their independence because they've been taken care of so much more, and they took care of that. And now it's a case of like, I need to check the tire pressures on the car. I don't know how to do that. The light has come up for this. I don't know how to do that. And I think that can feel to that person sometimes a little bit, it can make them feel a little bit stupid, but it's not. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and no one should ever be ashamed of that. If you don't know it, you don't know it. The great thing is now, you know, with AI, you can find out instantly. And then once you know, you know. But these are the things that sometimes keep us in long relationships, because we think it's a scary thought, isn't it? If I leave this, I don't know what I'm going to. Like I said, it's that analogy that I said previously in this podcast of like, you're on a lifeboat and you're diving off and trying to find a shore that you're not sure is there, and you're taking a big gamble. The difference is the lifeboat that you was in was sinking, and you had no choice, because if you didn't find somewhere else, you were dying anyway. So you needed to do that to get out of this, whether you realized it or not, whether it was your decision or not. You needed to make a break for it, or you needed to be thrown overside to make a break for it, to give you a chance of finding something new. And you know, you might just find that you're happy swimming around in the ocean for the rest of your life and having a great time. So all these emotional hangovers, and it's from history, and it's from the experience, it changes everything. It really does. So you become a different person. In your head, you've got to adjust to all these new things as well. And that's why that silence can be a killer sometimes for you, because you're going to feel this is, you know, when you're in your brain, it's like, well, I've got to do that. What day did the bins go out? And how do I pay that? And where's the money for that? And how do I do this? And take it one step at a time. And each night, each week, each month, each year, it gets easier, until you'll get to the extreme side of that, the other side of that, where you think, I'm so comfortable now in this life and I love it. I've learned to love it. I'm not sure if I want to give it up for anyone. And that's a great place to be, because then it's got to be someone special. And that's what you should have. You should have someone special. We all deserve someone special. And you might find that the special person in your life is just you. And that's great. That could just be you, your kids, if you're lucky enough to have kids, or it could be the relationship with a pet, or whatever it may be. And that may be the special place for you. And that's why this weight is normal, and it's not a sign that something's wrong. And when you're sitting there in this silence and you think, oh God, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I single at this stage? And I think sometimes what you've got to think remember is how you felt when you was in a relationship and it wasn't right or you wasn't happy. And where would you rather be? Would you rather have everything in front of you, making your own choices, or back in that situation where you couldn't escape? You didn't feel like you could get out. You didn't want to upset the other person. You knew something was wrong, but you didn't really want to face it. And all those things, which one would you rather choose? And I think a lot of people choose to stay where they are. I really do. And I think that's a shame sometimes for everyone involved in that situation. The people that choose to get out of that, don't sit there and think that you've made the wrong decision because everything feels like 100 miles an hour, or that silence is so deafening that you just don't know what to do with it. This is normal. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong. This is normal and you will get there. You just need to trust in yourself, fill your time with things that you want to be doing. Get yourself out of your comfort zone where you can. Yes, it will feel like it's nervous, but like I said earlier, that could be excitement as well. And you just never know where that might lead. So listen, guys, if you're listening to this and you've got comments about it, please send them in. That's the end of today's podcast. I really appreciate you listening and thank you for your time. And thank you for all your feedback, as always, because it really helps. And I'm glad this is helping people as well in their situations. So thank you for joining 50 Shades and Grey. As always, please subscribe, please follow, and please share. Take care.